Ongi and Tori, and welcome to our guide on Mus, a traditional Basque card game with a rich history dating back centuries. Mus is a social game of strategy, bluffing, and partnership that's been played in Basque communities worldwide. Today, we'll teach you the basics so you can start playing too. Mus is played with 4 players in 2 teams of 2, where partners sit across from each other diagonally. You will need these items to play: a 40-card deck with no 8s, 9s, 10s, or jokers, or a Spanish deck with no 8s, 9s, or wilds, 8 white chips, 7 red chips, and 7 blue chips. The objective of the game is for your team to reach 40 points first. Starting at 0, players receive points for their team by betting on the strength of their cards based on 4 categories. Highs, deciding who has the highest cards; lows, who has the lowest cards; pairs, who has the best pairs; and game, who has the best hand value total. Points are tracked with poker chips. When one player receives 5 white chips, they're exchanged for 1 red or blue chip worth 5 points by their partner, and the first team to reach 40 points wins. Once a dealer is decided between both teams, that dealer shuffles the cards, allows the player to their left to cut the deck, and then deals the cards counterclockwise, one at a time, face down, until each player has 4 cards. No peeking is allowed until then. The deck is then placed to the right of the dealer to signify which team speaks first. It is important that every player keeps their 4 cards hidden from each other. After dealing, teams decide one at a time, starting with the team right of the dealer, if they'd like to either discard any cards by agreeing to Mus, or begin play immediately by agreeing to Mintza. If all 4 players are in agreement for Mus, each player discards 1 to 4 cards face down for new ones from the dealer. The dealer will then distribute 1 to 4 new cards to one player at a time in the same counterclockwise order. It is important to know that if everybody opts to Mus, players must discard at least 1 card in their hand, so if you have a decent hand, it is probably not the best strategy to Mus it away and risk it getting worse while allowing your opponents to get better. After Mus, teams decide in the same order whether or not they'd like to Mus again, optionally as many times as they'd like, until one player on a team decides their hand is good enough to begin play. Once play begins, betting happens in each category, starting with highs, to see who has the strongest high hand. The order of the strongest to weakest big cards goes from kings, queens, jacks, sevens, all the way down to aces. Starting with the Etchechury, players talk in the same counterclockwise order that the cards were dealt in, one at a time, and decide how to play their hand. Players can either bet a minimum of 2 points, bet more than 2 points, or pass. If a player bets, the opposing team can decide to either accept the bet, raise the amount, or give it up where only 1 point is surrendered no matter the bet size. If a bet was raised and doesn't want to be accepted, the amount surrendered is based on the last amount bet. At any point in the game, a player can decide to bet the whole game on the current category by expressing or doggo. If accepted, the cards are shown right there and the player with the best hand wins that game for their team and no further points are counted. If every player decides to go pasho in a round, the best hand will receive only 1 point in the counting phase. Once points have either been surrendered, passed all the way through, or a bet has been accepted, players automatically begin betting for the next category, lows. After highs comes lows, where teams now play for who has the lowest value cards. The order of strongest to weakest small cards go from aces, 2s, 3s, 4s, all the way up to kings. The exact same sequence of betting is continued in the same order as before. A general tip, unless you're trying to run a bluff, most would agree that you should probably not be involved with a bigs bet without a king or a smalls bet without an ace. After lows comes pairs. Now, unlike betting on highs and lows, before betting on Puntuak, players must first honestly declare in order if they have pairs or not by saying "by" for yes or "s" for no. When at least 2 opposing players have pairs, they play for them. For pairs, the same logic applies to highs. Any pair of kings will beat a pair of queens, but any 3 of a kind, Mediac, will beat any pair. In Mediac over Mediac situations, the better 3 of a kind wins, but any 2-pair, Dobliac, beats any 3 of a kind, and in Dobliac versus Dobliac situations, the highest pair wins. If only one team has pairs, play skips to the next round, but that team will receive bonus points for their pairs later. And if nobody had a pair, play would also skip to the next round. After pairs comes game, also known as Jokua. For Jokua, players must also first declare whether or not their hand has an added value of 31 or higher. To count your hand's point total, all kings, queens, and jacks have a value of 10 points each, and all other cards retain their value, with aces having a value of 1. In a Spanish deck, the Reyes and Caballos all have a value of 10 despite showing 11 and 12. If at least 2 opposing players have Jokua, they begin betting on who has the best one. The order of the best to worst Jokuas is 31, 32, then 40, down to 33. If only one team has Jokua, the cards are shown immediately for counting, and that team receives bonus points for their Jokua at the end. However, if nobody has a card value of 31 or higher, players now play for who has the highest point, with 30 being the strongest, then 29, 28, and so on. If Puntuak went pasho all the way through, the winner will be decided in the counting phase. If it was bet on and not accepted, the team who won it receives 1 bonus point on top of the point for tira. If a bet was accepted, the extra point is counted in the counting phase. Once Puntuak is either passed through or a bet was either accepted or surrendered, the categories have concluded and players now enter into the counting phase. After all betting rounds, all 4 players must reveal their cards face up and points are scored in the order they were played. Even though players bet their hands individually, when it comes to deciding winning hands, the team with the best hand wins the bet no matter who made the bet. When counting for highs, you decide the winning hand by counting or ordering the 4 cards in order from strongest to weakest. The same logic applies to finding the best hand for smalls. In the rare case that 2 opposing players have the same exact hand for deciding a winner for highs or smalls, the hand with Etchechury priority wins the bet. The same goes for pairs. If 2 opposing players have the same pair, the ones with Etchechury priority wins the bet. The other 2 cards are irrelevant. A reminder that to find the best pair, the highest pair wins, but any pair will lose to any Mediac. In Mediac versus Mediac, the higher 3 of a kind wins, but any Mediac will lose to any Dobliac. And in Dobliac over Dobliac, the higher 2 pair wins. If 2 players have a similar Dobliac, the winner is decided by the higher second pair. And if somehow 2 players have the exact same Dobliac hand, the one with Etchechury priority wins. To find a winner for Jokua, the player with the best Jokua value wins the bet. In the case of a tie for Jokua, only the Jokua value and Etchechury priority is important when deciding a winner. To find the winning Puntuak hand, the hand closest to 31 wins the bet, with 30 being the best. And in the case of a tie, like Jokua, the hand closest to Etchechury wins the bet for Puntuak. When counting points for pairs, the team who won pairs counts the bet and receives for their team 1 point for every pair, 2 points for every Mediac, and 3 points for every Dobliac. When counting Jokua, the team who won Jokua receives 3 points for every 31 and 2 points for every other Jokua value. If both teams had pairs or Jokua and it went pasho all the way around, the team with the winning hand receives only whatever their team's pairs or Jokua was worth. If a team had pairs and or Jokua but didn't have the best of the teams, they do not receive bonus points for them, only the winning team does. Whoever wins Puntuak via betting receives 1 extra point at the end on top of the bet amount called the pasa. If Puntuak went pasho all the way around, the winning hand receives only 1 point for their team, and no esa is counted. After the points have been properly counted and taken, the round has commenced. The cards are then gathered by the new dealer, which is the player to the right of the last dealer, and the sequence happens again and again until a team wins the game by reaching 40 points or an ordago is accepted. Important to know. Usually points are counted all together casually for convenience purposes, but when both teams are close to winning, it is essential that each team counts their points 1 round at a time. The extra esa for Puntuak that you receive technically gets counted last, once everything else has been counted. This can have a big effect on the result of some games. NABO tournaments and friendly games are always played in a best-of-3 format. usually playing to 30 points instead of 40. When playing to 30, all the same rules apply, except you just have 5 red and blue chips each compared to 7. Signals. It can be easy to see how a game like Mus can easily have secret signals between partners. This is unfortunately illegal and considered cheating. There is, however, legal signals that you can throw to your partner that the other team has the ability to call out and recognize. The signs come as follows. Biting the lower lip indicates a pair of kings. Stinging out the tongue signals a pair of aces. Moving the mouth to one side indicates mediac. Doing a double mouth signal indicates dobliac. And winking indicates you have 31 Jokua. If you wink after pairs has commenced, however, this indicates you have 30. Signs for anything else don't officially exist and are therefore not permitted. Signs can be a fun aspect of the game that introduces tricky strategy, allowing yourself to play your partner's hand while confusing the opposing team about the strength of your own. Whether or not you decide to use them yourself, make sure you keep an eye out because you will see an experienced player use them very often. Royal 31. A Royal 31 is when one has a Jokua 31 by having 3 sevens and a face card. Despite wherever you are in Etchechury position, if you have a Royal 31, it is impossible to lose even if somebody has 31 in front of you. This is the only hand in Mus that contains this unique property. There is also a popular variation of Mus called Seaik Mus as well, where there are 6 players instead of 4. The only 2 differences are that partners are now arranged in triangles and 3s are now kings, making there 8 playable kings. In some regions, the 3s are kings, but the 2s are also aces, making it 8 kings and 8 aces. Regardless of the preference, Seaik Mus is a very popular pastime commonly seen at Basque festivals and events. Mus might initially seem overwhelming and confusing to learn with the unique Basque and Spanish language it's played in, but I promise that the overall concept is very easy to grasp. You can always play in English to start, and before you know it, you'll be ready for a Mus game anywhere. Here's a small index of common phrases to remember. You can screenshot if you need to. Mus, Mintza, Hashi, Envido, Edoki, Achiki, Gure, Pasho, Tira, Tira Enekatik, Hordago, or Hordal, Canta, Bota, Eman, Bai, Es, Bat, Bi, Hiru, Lau, Bosht, She, Saspi, Sortsi, Beratzi, Hamar. To wrap up our guide on Mus, we will demonstrate one example hand so you can get a better grasp of what play usually looks like. See anything? Mus. 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 Three. Feel any better?
I could go Mus again.
Let's envío.
Tira.
With 4. Pasho chica. Hiro.
It's not bad.
Your cards if you want.
Cheeky.
Ariak ba.
Ba. Yes. Ba.
Envío.
Envido.
Not terrible. You know what? Tachi. Sure. No. Jokua ba.
No. S. S.
Wow. Just 3 for my 31.
3 for the bet on smalls, 4 for the bet on pairs is 7, plus another 3 for your duplex is 10, and then 1 for my pair is 11.
Okay. Congratulations. You now know the basics of Mus, a cherished tradition in Basque culture. Gather some friends, deal the cards, and enjoy this fantastic game. Thank you for watching.